Welcome back, beautiful people, to today's episode of Quiz Us to Be Happy Us, where we go over the Four Tendencies Quiz, which is a framework developed by Gretchen Rubin, who is a happiness guru. The test categorizes you into one of the four distinct personality profiles so that you can better cater habits and actions to increase your happiness. The four tendencies are Upholder, Questionnaire, Obliger, and Rebel. And today we are going to dive into discussing our results and how to actually increase our happiness. So let's dive in. So what is the Four Tendency Quiz? I'm going to go over that. Like I briefly mentioned during the intro, the Four Tendencies Quiz is created by Gretchen Rubin, who's a podcast host, a New York Times bestselling author, all about happiness. And she advocates how small steps taken consistently can add up to greater contentment. And she says that in order to do that, you need to know what type of person you are. And this is where the Four Tendency Quiz comes in and help us make our lives better. So in order to successfully tailor happiness boosting habits specifically to our own personality, we first need to understand who we are and how we operate. And the quiz really helps individuals utilize in a way to self-reflect on yourself. And it's divided, again, like I mentioned, the four categories. You have the upholders who respond readily to outer and inner expectations. They keep the work deadline and the New Year's resolution fairly easy. You have the questionnaires who question all expectations. They'll meet an expectation if they think it makes sense and meets their own inner standards. So they only follow their own inner expectations. You have the obligers who meet outer expectations, but struggle to meet expectations they impose on themselves. An obliger journalist, for example, has no trouble writing when he has an editor, colleague, or deadline, but struggles to write a novel in his or her free time. And lastly, you have the rebels, which resist all expectations, outer and inner alike, and they want to do what they want in their own way. And if you ask or tell them to do something, they'll likely to resist. So we have now taken the quiz. And then Cindy, do you want to explain how the quiz works and some of the statements?
All right. So based on the quiz, we got like 8 questions. I think that's what they asked. And each of these 8 questions, they provide 4 multiple choice answers. And then each of us, when we do the quiz, obviously we choose the answer that best suits our kind of response towards the statement they gave or the question they gave. Basically, after taking all these tests, whatever choice we make, they add up the results and they determine which personality we have. I think what would be fun if the 3 of us could guess what answer we would pick for this question. So the question I choose is, when you formed a healthy habit in the past, what helped you stick to it? The first option is, I'm pretty good at sticking to habits, even when no one else cares. Second is, doing a lot of research and customization about why and how I might keep that habit. Option C, I would stick to a good habit only when I was answerable to someone else. And option D, usually I don't choose to bind myself in advance to a particular course of action. Which one do you think the 4 of us are?
I'm trying to rethink what answer I chose for this question. I would have likely chosen A, which is I am pretty good at keeping habits, even though no one cares. That would be my answer for the question, I guess. Angela?
Was there an option, because I have a Dory memory, was there an option where says I'm really good at keeping habits if I care. So I don't really need to show anybody else. For example, I did, went on a keto diet.
A keto diet. Whoa.
I don't really care if people have any comments on the diet. It's because when I did the research and it fits my needs and it fits well with my diet, I just keep on doing it. without caring what other people need to say, except for myself. So I don't know, was there an option like that?
Yeah, the second one was doing a lot of research and customization about why and how I might keep that habit. It seems to stick with what you're saying. Yeah, like I've never heard of that diet unless I did a research on it. So obviously I can hear from your response, you actually prepared a lot before deciding to take on the habit. You did a lot of research on it, and it's like, how are you going to go about doing this? Yeah, I agree. The option B sounds like you. And then option A does sound like Han. And then for me,
you're the last one.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm the last one. Usually I don't choose to buy myself in advance a particular course of action. That's true. Somebody introduces like an interesting habit. Let's say like, oh, start doing yoga. Like I would say, wow, that sounds amazing. But I never agree to take yoga classes with you or something like that. No, I never dare because I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to commit myself to that. Yeah, that sounds like me.
Yes, going back to these habits, like I chose option A because I felt like internally, if I can't keep myself a promise, then I just feel like a failure, you know? Using Angela's keto diet as an example, if I say to myself, I'll go on a keto diet, and if I don't actually go on it, it just feels like I can't even control myself to do that one simple thing. So you're just not qualified to do anything else.
It's like military training that you have for yourself,
but
which is good.
To turn down a bit, like from the military, I guess it's more like you are kind of answering to your own inner expectations. Like if somebody else was to require you to do a keto diet, would you care as much? Or
thinking about it, I guess it would, because I kind of want to prove myself and show others, that I am able to do it. Determination.
Okay. Well, I mean, hearing that, I would say based on the quiz, Angela, I think you might agree. Like this sounds like what is it? An upholder?
Upholder, yeah. I feel like Han, you're an upholder. Yes.
So what did you get?
It was an upholder,
Oh, yay. You see? And then Angela's, yours is like you do the research and all that. So I don't know, what makes you like keep up with the habit of a keto diet, for example?
Well, because I know the logistics and I know the facts in terms of how my body works. You know, I actually went to, to see a nutritionist, and using those facts, having this diet verified from like verifiable source, and then doing some of the research myself, then I stick to the diet because it'll be good for me. I also like trialed and errored a lot of other diets, and it hasn't been working as well except for this one. So through experimentation, I found a diet that works well for me, and I try to stick to it as best as I can because if nobody knows what a keto diet is, it's basically no carbs, like no sugar, no bread. Yeah.
Well, definitely you have like inner expectations of yourself fulfilling this kind of goal. And then I would say like I'm very surprised, to be honest, like when you say keto diet, you do all the research, you would check by a lot of sources and all that, because usually I don't think I'd ever do that. When I think of doing a habit or something, going back to my example of the yoga, like I've heard of it, but maybe I wouldn't do that much research on yoga, how well it does to my body and all that. But from what I'm hearing from Angela, it feels like you are
if I were doing yoga, I would do a lot of research about why yoga will benefit me, and how that compared to other sports. Because if another sport is better than yoga, because yoga's slow for me. Like I need music, I need a pump up. So like if it's better, but it has the same output as yoga, then I'm gonna do that other sport rather than yoga.
You asked the question, actually. You were just like, why is yoga good for me? Just double checking, like this is, the right thing for me. And
I see where you're going, Cindy. Ooh, I see where you're going.
You see where I'm going? Yes, because it sounds like you're a questioner. That's what it sounds like.
You
Is
are
that a good guess?
That's 100%. 100. You got it correct.
Do you actually keep resolutions, like New Year resolutions in general?
The truth is, some of my New Year's resolution is still the same from last year.
So you don't keep them? And that's why you repeat them?
In a way, I would ask myself, like, why do I have to do the resolution on New Year's? Like, it could just happen in any day. I could do a February resolution. I could do a March resolution. I could do like a new Monday resolution. Like, like what's stopping me?
Seems like Cindy wants to go at her own pace and just don't follow the social norm just because everybody else is doing a New Year's resolution on New Year's Day.
Yes.
That kind of reminds me of like a rebel.
Really? A rebel?
Yeah. Are you a rebel? Are you a rebel, Cindy?
I am. Yes, I am a rebel. Yes, that was the result I got. I'm a rebel because according to quiz, it says I resist inner and outer expectations. Yeah, from what I said just now, outer expectations of having New Year's, I'm not gonna do that. And then I resist my own because I'm like, well, why do I have to like meet this resolution? I could just start anytime. So yeah, it's kind of annoying.
It'd be really hard to please yourself.
It is. Yeah, the quiz also mentions like I choose to act from a sense of choice, of freedom. So I guess I need to feel like I made choices myself. It's like the Cindy today resists the Cindy's yesterday, and then the Cindy tomorrow is not gonna understand the Cindy today. But yeah, basically, like, what do I want to do? And then the quiz also mentions, like, I actually kind of agree with what it says. It says places high value on authenticity and self-determination. So what it means is like I can achieve things in my own way, not necessarily by instructions or mainstream way. I guess what might annoy others is that sometimes when somebody else tells me to do something, I would do like the opposite, which means like you ask me to cook, I am not gonna cook unless I unless I convince myself like, Cindy, today you're going to increase your cooking skills or something like that. Then I would be able to do it. But if somebody tells me to cook, I feel like if I cook, that means I'm giving that person a right to control me, if that makes sense. I don't like that feeling.
So next time if I ask Cindy to do something, I'm going to use reverse psychology.
Reverse psychology, and then also appeal to my identity, like Cindy, the Chinese South African, will you cook for us? Well, then I'll be like, yes. Because you appeal to my identity as a Chinese South African.
Oh my God.
Even though it makes no sense.
So you have to acknowledge Cindy's presence and then ask a favor from her.
Yeah. Now we know.
Yeah,
like we know.
You
want to feel special.
Yes.
Got it.
Wow, I feel such a spoiled kid. But I guess that's one of the problems of rebels is that it's once you get to know rebel, you need to like communicate in that way and in essence make us feel happy. And then I guess the other one is we prefer spontaneity. Acts as those rules don't apply to us.
Okay, for me, some of the points that really stood out to me was as a questionnaire, we question all expectations and respond to an expectation only if they conclude that it makes sense in an essence. So they only meet their inner expectation. And that really spoke out to me because it really spoke out to the keto example that I just talked about a while ago. Like if it makes sense to me and the research validates my inner expectations, then I follow through with it. And then again, questionnaire asks a lot of questions for clarity. And that's what I always do. Like if nothing makes sense to me, and in college too, I'm not shy to sound stupid because as long as it doesn't make sense to me, I always ask because in my perspective, it shows that you're motivated to do something. And again, it goes along with the third point. They're motivated by reason, logic, and fairness. And they wake up and think what needs to get done today and why. So if everything makes sense within reason and it's fair, then I'm game. Yeah. Another point is they decide for themselves whether a course of action is a good idea and they resist doing anything that seems to lack purpose. And then lastly, ironically, many questionnaires dislike being questioned and they consider their actions carefully. So they find it tiresome to explain it or to be asked to justify their decisions. That is something, yes, because I spend so much time doing research. And if somebody else questions me without doing the research that I did, for example, dogs can't eat chocolate. And I did this whole report on why dogs can't eat chocolate. And this other person comes up to me and probably, let's say, plays the devil's advocate and said, he believes dogs can eat chocolate and starts questioning me. Then I get angry. And if that person is on my team, then I'll be so frustrated. At that point, there will be no happy me. It'll be a one angry, frustrated Angela.
Angry Angela.
Don't question her on things you've done research before. And you, Han?
Yeah, for me as an upholder, some of my key attributes were that I keep internal and external expectations. So expectations for myself and what others impose to me. It kind of makes sense, I guess. Whatever I say that I will keep as a promise, either it be to myself or if someone asked me to keep a promise, I would keep that. An example that I had for this point was my New Year's resolution of working out more. I have been keeping it because I work out almost every day, well, 5 times a week, because I kept a schedule now. 6:30, I leave the room and I go running for at least an hour or 30 minutes. It makes me really satisfied and happy that I'm basically living up to what I expected and living up to my standards. So it's like a daily task of checking off your to-do list. Doesn't that keep you, happy and make you feel accomplished or something?
Yeah, I try to do what you do, but I feel like I only stick for 1 week on that. And then I would, maybe if I miss one day of waking up at 6:30, then I can't keep up this habit and I find something new. So I don't know. I find that amazing that you're able to keep up your expectations for yourself.
Thanks, I guess. Yeah, actually, just going on to that, it's basically the same thing as self-preservation. So I do better when expectations are clear or what people expect from me. If you tell me clearly what you want out of me or what you want me to do, I would do it. So the quiz results told me that I basically say yes to whatever people ask me to do and whatever I ask of myself to do. So that was one thing I was like, maybe I should think about this when I make any important decisions in the future.
What happens if things don't go according to plan? What if somebody else made some last minute changes, for example?
Yeah, that's the thing that ticks me off because I like to keep myself prioritized, and I have a to-do list in my head, and I make an agenda every day about what I'm going to do that day and what I want to do that day. So if someone, changes plans last minute or just changes anything, it kind of ruins my day because it's
wow.
I have this goal in mind and I was about to go for it, but immediate changes for me. Yeah.
It sounds like you're a habits person. Like you like to keep habits on yourself.
Yes, it just makes me feel accomplished about the small things in life.
I feel like I'm completely opposite.
Yeah.
I just said I love spontaneity, and that kind of makes sense because according to quiz they have this diagram and we're opposites of each other.
Okay, so now that we figured out our personalities from this quiz, what are some small steps that we can take to increase our happiness, knowing the personalities that we got? Who wants to start off? Okay. Han? Okay, yes.
I think mine's pretty obvious because I mentioned it while I was explaining my upholder attributes. For me, it's just basically setting small goals for myself, like eating breakfast at this time, having my quiet time in the morning, working out after work. So things like that, it just makes me feel accomplished and that I'm making the most of my day or most of my time. I think these type of goals that I set for myself, it's the purpose to make myself healthier, just happier in general. So running after work is basically my way of refreshing my mind and my energy again. Because after work, you are tired, but most of the time, if I drag myself out of my room and just start running, your mind just clears up. And even though I might regret doing something, set a goal for myself, I end up liking it at the end. So I trust my past self that I made the right choice for today's self and I stick to it.
Yeah, that goes with the making habits.
I can't trust my past self. Han is very satisfied with her past self.
Yeah, that's my simple happiness. Cindy, you? If you're opposite of me?
As mentioned before, I prefer the essence of freedom. And I love it when spontaneity succeeds. So, that feeling where it's you get this crazy idea to do something and it actually turns out for the best. I love that feeling. And that's what makes me happy the most. Maybe, today I was supposed to read or something like that, but then I choose to do something different. maybe go out. And then, for example, I meet a alumni, haven't met in a long time. Then in my mind, I'll be like, this is a spontaneity that happened. Like, I didn't expect this, and it turns out for the best. And life is like always much funner if something unexpected happens. That makes me happy.
You wouldn't want restrictions in life because you want to be set free.
Yeah, it
chained.
sounds like you can't. It's like life, you are gonna be bound down by responsibility. But like, because I'm being bound down by responsibility, by tasks and all that, when I get that feeling like I can make a choice out of what I am in the circumstance I am, that gives me joy. Like, it makes me feel like, life might be hard, but I still have a choice here. Like, I can still survive with things I make a decision of. Yeah.
So you really value your choice and your freedom to make a choice, I guess.
Yeah, it just makes me feel like, I'm alive, being able to make a choice. And I feel very grateful to make a choice.
To me, you sound like a risk taker.
I guess, yeah, that could happen. But, I still want people to like give me full information. For example, like, if I'm given 3 choices, give me information, all of them. Tell me the consequences of all of them. And then ask the question like, but it's up to you. What do you want to do? That is the best way to present a problem. Tell me everything, but then make me make the decision.
For me, like, I viewed it as in terms of career. Now that I know I'm a questionnaire, I would need to like find a position where the team culture is very open-minded and higher management encourage like suggestions and clarifications from employers. And that would really increase my happiness. I wouldn't probably be fitted for a consultant role because I'll probably won't be able to choose my project or task. And if I were to question higher ups in a consultant role, I'll be punished instead of being encouraged and praised. So I'm not going to consultant. Moral of the story. And then for relationship wise, I think I would need to find a partner who is not narrow-minded, and they need to be flexible with things. And even if my partner has a strong opinion on something, he shouldn't be disrespectful of it. So like, he can't say, well, it's either my way or the highway, or it's my way or we're going to break up, because that would really like trigger me and I wouldn't be happy. I'll be frustrated immediately. So I need someone who can be like, okay, well, here's my point of view. And he lets me share my own thoughts, and then we can make compromise, like hear each other out and then make a decision. That would really increase my happiness.
So I guess just as Gretchen mentions, how small steps each of us can take to consistently add up to greater contentment, the 3 of us also shared some of the steps and little tips we learned to make ourselves more happy. In the same way, like learning about each other's habits, each other's personality, that can also help with collaboration, for example, like relationships, as Angela mentioned, finding that partner, as well as professionally, like what kind of environment you're suited at makes you happy even in those moments as well. At the end of the day, taking the quiz was also a way for each of us to know more about ourselves and how each of us find that little happiness in the same situation. So I hope the listeners can also feel the same when they hear about this quiz and why this quiz was invented, in the first place. Particularly now during this time of the pandemic, and for the 3 of us who have friends all over the world, I would say it's pretty important to know our own habits, the methods and communications we prefer, so that in essence, we can increase our happiness.
Okay, thank you, Cindy, for wrapping today's episode up. Again, if you're feeling the blues out there, take a moment. The quiz is free. Take 5 minutes out of your time to really understand yourself and really understand what can you do to increase your happiness in your life. So thank you guys for tuning in today's episode of Quiz Us to Be Happy Us. And if you haven't, please subscribe, like, and leave a rating for Banana Corn, and recommend this to all your family and friends, and follow us on Instagram, Banana Corn PD, and come back and join us on our next episode. This is us.
Bye. Bye.